The legendary American aircraft carriers are a mobile floating military airbase and a powerful tool of geopolitical influence. Due to the impressive buoyancy and reliable protection of the aircraft carrier strike group, they are considered practically invulnerable. But history knows many examples of how the human factor and technical failures caused accidents on military vehicles. Today, we will tell you about a series of tragic events at USS Oriskany, about who, why, and how one of the most legendary U.S. aircraft carriers lies buried at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as about the further fate of a veteran of several wars. The heavy attack aircraft carrier USS Oriskany entered service on September 25, 1950. It had a displacement of 27,100 tons or 44,700 tons at full load. Length 277 meters, width 45 meters, draft of 9.5 meters, developed a speed of up to 33 knots, accommodated on board more than 80 aircrafts and helicopters, was equipped with launch assist catapults for aircraft takeoffs. But even such a powerful military vessel stuffed with ultra-modern technical innovations of the U.S. Navy was not immune from emergencies. On March 1, 1953, after a short respite in the territorial waters of Japan, Oriskany set off for another combat exit. On March 6, 1953, the Vought F-4U fighter aircraft was piloted by Lieutenant Edwin L. Comer. It was discovered that there was an engine malfunction shortly after takeoff. Comer, acting on instructions, was forced to terminate the mission, drop ammunition, and return to the Oriskany floating base. However, one 250-pound bomb stuck in the bomb rack. Such force majeure in those days, although rare, did happen. Therefore, Comer was allowed to make an emergency landing on Oriskany along with a stuck bomb. The fighter landed on the deck of an aircraft carrier, and suddenly the bomb flew off the counter, bounced off the cockpit, and exploded. The explosion killed 2 sailors and injured 14 others. The explosion riddled the lower hangar deck with shrapnel, piercing many of the parked aircrafts and flooding the hangar bay with gasoline. The fire brigade quickly extinguished the fire and isolated the hangar deck, preventing the fire from spreading to the main part of the ship. The repair team repaired the damage in a few hours, and by March 8, Oriskany was already back in operation. But the series of disasters aboard the Oriskany related to human errors and technical failures did not end. On October 26, 1966, Oriskany service personnel were stowing ammunition unused during night operations to prepare the floating airbase for the start of morning flights. But suddenly, something went wrong. At 7:28 a.m., an alarm sounded on the ship announcing the occurrence of an emergency. It turned out that there was a fire in the A-107-M compartment. The box contained more than 250 magnesium signal rockets and up to 500 unguided air rockets with a folding Mk4 fin. Alerted by the alarm and arriving at the scene of the fire brigade discovered that the closed door to the room was deformed and jammed due to the extremely high temperature. As a result, access to the burning compartment was blocked, which instantly turned into a giant furnace. Inside it was about 3,000 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, many metals no longer melt, but boil. Instantly, the deck began to heat up, and the firefighters only had to water it with hoses, trying to cool it down at least a little. 10 minutes after the start of the fire, the doors and steel bulkheads of the room were blown out due to high pressure inside the compartment. Immediately at the site of the incident, 5 people died. A liquid oxygen cylinder exploded. 2 helicopter hangars located on the left side in front of the deck, and an A-4 Skyhawk aircraft in the hangar deck caught fire. Flaming debris scattered across the entire bow of the aircraft carrier. Smoke and flames quickly spread through the corridors and ventilation systems, trapping the crew in their cabins. The crew desperately fought the fire. Sailors threw overboard barrels of aviation gasoline, ammunition, and pushed remaining aircrafts into the water. An automatic sprinkler fire suppression system worked, flooding the hangar, but magnesium continued to burn in the water. Many lower rooms were filled with water. For 7 hours, rescuers and firefighters tried to contain the fire and extinguish the flames, freed the surviving hostages of the fire from the blocked compartments, rescued the injured, and pulled out the dead. As a result of the disaster, 35 officers, sailors and pilots, and 8 enlisted men were killed, another 38 were injured. 2 helicopters and 1 attack aircraft were destroyed by fire. 3 more Skyhawks were damaged, and the ship itself was badly damaged by fire. Oriskany was forced to abandon its combat position and head for the U.S. naval base at Subic Bay in the Philippines to be repaired. What caused the tragedy on the ship? How did it happen that the sailor panicked and made a fatal mistake? He tossed the burning missile into the service closet with ammunition and slammed the door instead of throwing it overboard. A flaming rocket inside the compartment caused the chain ignition of more than 700 other ammunition. This was the cause of a large-scale fire that claimed the lives of team members and caused significant material damage. During the investigation of the incident, 2 versions of what happened were present. According to the first, one of the inexperienced handler's trainees dropped a Mark 24 Mod 3 flare, which was intended to illuminate the target during night bombing. The second, however, stated that the cause of the emergency would be a design defect in the magnesium rocket itself. The final combat mission of Oriskany, nicknamed Mighty O, ended in 1976. On September 30th, the veteran of 3 wars was paid off into reserve and sent to Bremerton in Washington state. Initially, this aircraft carrier, after having served, was planned to be sold to Japan as a floating museum exhibit. However, this deal and several others did not take place. So the legendary veteran would have rotted in the U.S. Navy Reserve site. But the idea was to dispose of the behemoth within a pilot program to turn decommissioned ships into artificial reefs. In the process of preparation, the remaining fuel and various technical fluids were drained from Oriskany. The electrical wiring, part of the bulkheads, and insulation were removed. The operation itself went surprisingly quickly and without incidents. On May 17, 2006, the aircraft carrier set off on its last journey. It was towed 24 miles off the coast, leveled the bow straight north, and detonated. It was expected that the sinking of an unsinkable warship would take at least 5 to 8 hours, but the honored veteran apparently was already waiting for this moment itself and sank quietly in just 37 minutes. The ship, as expected, lay down flat on the keel. Later, due to hurricanes and tropical storms, the now artificial underwater reef tilted slightly by just a few degrees. How and why did they sink this unsinkable floating base weighing about 44,000 tons? The transformation of the aircraft carrier into an artificial reef cost the U.S. Navy $20 million, as such a large-scale operation is associated with the complexity of preparation, which is necessary to prevent serious environmental problems. But all the same, sinking ships is cheaper than dismantling and recycling them. And the creation of artificial reefs provides potential economic benefits, allowing additional renovation of the underwater ecosystem. Now flooded at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, Oriskany is overgrown with shells and teeming with spiny sea urchins. In the towers of the aircraft carrier, giant barracudas prowl in search of prey. It is home to about 38 species of fish. Oriskany also became a diver's mecca. The most desperate fans of underwater adventures come here from all over the world. The top of the control tower is at 70 feet, that's about 21 meters. The flight deck is at 137 feet, while the hull is at 212 feet. However, the recommended recreational diving limit is 135 feet, and the giant is submerged at a depth of 215 feet. Not surprisingly, accidents happen here from time to time. Fascinated by the outlandish pictures of the underwater world, divers forget about the need to comply with safety rules and remain captives of the water element forever. But Florida's dive business is booming. Now there are not only magnificent beaches, but also the largest artificial reef. A report from the University of West Florida says the Oriskany brought Pensacola and Escambia County nearly $4 million in the first year alone after the sinking. Thus ended the military mission of the Mighty O, which is now recognized as one of the best diving sites in the world and has become a source of income for diving clubs in Pensacola. What do you think? Is it worth spending millions of dollars on the construction of artificial reefs? And is it ethical at all to turn deadly military equipment into art objects? Please write your answers in the comments.